So in terms of aptitudes, let's look at the first one, map reading ability. So just to contextualize that, the reason you need map reading ability is because you've got to find houses here, there and everywhere, and they told me, Kiri, don't worry, they have very good maps. They told me how good their maps were. So I mean, I made it clear to them that I've been driving a motorhome for many years, from Bergen and the top of Norway down to the south of Italy and over into East Poland. I've gone through some of the largest cities in the world and some of the smallest lakes and around swamps, and working my way through forests, etc. And that, in fact, I have a whole combination of ordnance survey maps as a collection. So maps are something I'm committed to. I got 60% this. Ability with simple figures. So again, my employment as an engineering lecturer in the third level sector, and that being on my application form and CV, and again, nobody asked me what's 5 fives or what's 5.5 by 5.5, 5.5 by 6.5, because again, for the record, subsequently I did ask a supposedly independent reviewer of this questions like that. He knew 5 fives was 25. He wasn't sure about 5.5 by 5.5, and I incorrectly said it was 26.25. It should have been 30.25, as in 6.5 by 6.5 is 42.25, and 7.5 by 7.5 is 7/8 is 56.25. So I think it's not. And firstly, nobody asked me any sums here. That's simple figures. Nobody asked me sums. Ability to complete forms. Again, I would have pointed out these people that as part of my day-to-day work in the third level sector, quite apart from having to fill in revenue forms and business forms and grant application form for business, and as the founder and chairman of Parental Quality over the years, I was engaged constantly with the state in relation to form filling, and in representing myself in the family courts right up to the Supreme Court. I had to manage all my own form filling. In terms of demonstrating reasoning ability, again, nobody gave me one of these little tests that are regularly out there to see whether you can get what's going on. So I'll leave it to the listener to work up with that. But nothing, again, nobody asked me this. Would follow instructions. Again, I'm trying to evaluate how would you work out whether someone would follow instructions. I mean, I was asked, I said I had both worked for people and people had worked for me over the years. I'd worked in teams, I'd worked in management structures, I worked with colleagues, and that by definition required that you either would follow instructions or presumably find yourself outside the pale. I have never had a negative report given about me that I'm aware of. Certainly nothing ever brought to my attention. I've never been remonstrated within my career since I graduated from college in 1977. So I would suggest that I'd be perfectly capable and willing to follow instructions, although I must point out that if you asked me, for example, to follow the instructions that the guards in Auschwitz were asked to follow, or do some of the things that people are being asked to do, I would not follow an instruction which was unethical, and certainly anything against the law. But it was said I appeared to have experience in map reading. Now that, even the word appeared to have, as against, like, there was no test, so I'm not sure how I could have not appeared to have. In relation to would follow instructions, I'm just wondering if one was supposed to say, well, no, I wouldn't follow instructions and I still expect to get the job. This whole stuff seems to me to be bizarre. It said competent with form completion and figures, and yet the mark that I get there in an area that's really not about personality here, this is about your aptitudes, I got 60%. And again, I'd like to hold those figures because at the moment and at this point in time, when I'm reviewing this in real time, at that time, I have no other information about maybe that this is a very hard marking environment. Maybe they're very strict in this business. Maybe that's the norm here. So I didn't know that, and that'll be interesting when we look at information that comes later. So availability and motivation. So there's two parts of it. One, are you available? I have retired by choice to move to the west coast of Ireland. My day is my own. I decide what I want to do. I was particularly interested in the process, just from a social interest point of view, from meeting people, from getting to know the area. I had already worked it out in my mind how I would leave my car at the end of the road and walk and call on houses, and the fact that I might have to call back would in no way bother me because my time is my own. I never saw this as a well-paid job per hour or some quick way to make a buck, because I think there are other ways of making that sort of money, absolutely, if that's what my prime agenda was. So again, has full availability. So you can't have any full done fuller. So whatever marks I was given in that case less than 60%, 60 out of 125 for these three elements. So no matter how you if I granularize them into say three elements, it's about 40 marks for each of those. So I had full availability. Demonstrates persistence and resilience. Again, I was given no test, no did you ever do this, did you ever do that. Again, to have worked at the level I worked in the third level, I don't think I could have managed to survive, although, you know, maybe there are larger questions to public service, as you will see from the availability of some of the staff I'm dealing with, whether people are supposed to be persistent, resilient, turn up, pay attention or whatever. But no information I could have given him other than that I was fully persistent and resilient. And I would suggest that what I'm involved in at the moment, I think very few people would have hung out with this level of resilience. So likely to say for the full term. Now again, I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't thinking of going anywhere else. I'm here in Donegal. I'm here for the duration. I had no other impending issues that would keep me out of the location or the country during this period of time. So again, I would have full availability. And yet, I got less than 50% on this here. So moving on then to the area of education and experience. Again, has good general education, has good educational background, has experience in CSO surveys or market research and practical social work. So it says no CSO experience. That's absolutely true. And again, I remind it to start, what we're told is that there'll be a comprehensive training program provided. So I don't know how that would come against somebody in relation to, as I pointed out, a lot of my work in terms of getting feedback, and particularly in the area of working in parental quality, involved both surveying and in terms of practical social work. I think working around father support groups over 20 years is as practical and as at the coalface as it gets. And in terms of having experience of dealing with the public, I mean, the nature of my professional work as a lecturer constantly had me involved not only with the public but also being involved in the public, in the media, etc. over the last 20 years. I think I would have performed quite well in that area. Just to say, in that case, I then got 60%, 50 out of 75. So ultimately that adds up to me to getting 285 out of 500, which if you double that in 1,000, it's 57%. So I got 57%. That's what I'm at. So this is the first time I've been given this information. Now, just to go through here the boxes. Can devote typically 22 hours a week? Yes. Can work mainly in the evenings? Yes. Has secure storage for census documents? Yes. Has proof of VA citizenship? Yes. Full driving licence, use of car? Yes. Full or working knowledge of Irish required for Gaeltacht areas, right? Female Soulful, o da hefse, gefeting an obershin of us Gaelga? Yes. Confirm PPS? Yes. Advised bank account? I have no idea that anybody asked me to provide that information, so I can't say. There would have been absolutely no reason why I wouldn't have provided it. And collect Garda form. I'd filled in whatever forms they required me in terms of Garda approval. So in all the areas which would appear to be prerequisites, I satisfied all those requirements. So at least for the first time, I have now got the first feedback evaluation of how I've achieved the result that I got, with the caveat that the information which was drilled down to provide this is suddenly not available. I have been told that this information, and again I will come back to this in evidence later, was physically in the possession of Marcella Joyce at some point, and she said she put the original into an envelope along with a copy of this. Now work out for yourself how she manages to get copies of one and not originals of the other. Sent these into a snail mail letter which never arrived to me, despite having been written to and asked to send the information to me specifically as a digital content. So I, as a fellow said coming out of the railway, I have here a piece of information which makes me somewhat better informed but none the wiser. And one of the reasons I'm none the wiser is, one, I don't know where this information comes from. Two, I have a difficulty correlating my experience of that interview with these marks. But more importantly, I have no relative landscape against which to contextualise these marks. So I obviously realise from the outset I had asked for a scoring matrix. Now, Was I surprised that perhaps these people didn't understand what a scoring matrix is? Well, I'm dealing with the CSO. This is the Central Statistics Office. This is their business, to manage data. I mean, spreadsheets and the management of that sort of data is the basic lifeblood of their business. And so for me to expect that that's how they operate, I would not be surprised that's what I should expect. So now, having reviewed